On a dead planet where the skies never changed, a girl lay in the dust. She had no legs, no name, no family. She was born broken, or that's what they said. Her people looked at her like trash, useless, weak, nothing. She lived in Sector 9, the lowest place on the planet Kairos, a place where machines had more rights than children, and if you couldn't work, you didn't eat. Every day she pulled herself through the dirt using her arms. They were strong, but not strong enough to lift her out of that life. She begged for food, for water, for parts. Sometimes she was ignored. Sometimes she was kicked. The people around her said it to her face. She should have been thrown out at birth. She's just a mouth without legs. She'll die before she turns 15. But the girl didn't cry anymore. Tears didn't help, they never had. Instead, she watched, she listened. She remembered every face that laughed at her pain, and deep inside her something burned quietly, a small fire that refused to go out. The planet was controlled by the Zaith, a tall, cold-blooded species. They didn't care about the weak. They ruled with machines and fear. They believed in perfection. Anyone born with flaws was ignored, or worse, erased. And this girl without legs was at the very bottom, lower than even the broken bots. But then something strange happened. One quiet evening, when the red sun was falling behind the scrap towers, the girl saw a light, not a normal one. It was blue, pulsing, alive. She turned her head and saw a shadow coming through the fog. It wasn't a Zaith. It wasn't one of her own kind. It was tall, wearing armor that moved like liquid. Its face was hidden behind a dark helmet. Its steps were slow but sure, like it didn't care what this place was. People stepped back, confused, afraid. The shadow kept walking straight toward her. She didn't move. She couldn't. But her eyes, locked onto it, her body frozen in fear, and something else. Hope, maybe. The figure stopped in front of her and kneeled down. Steam hissed softly from his suit. She saw his eyes through the visor, human eyes. Her breath caught. Humans were gone, wiped out or disappeared after the War of Obedience. Nobody had seen one in over 10 years. Some said they were dead. Others said they ran away after the Zaith crushed their cities. But one was here, right in front of her. He reached into a pack and pulled out a small cube. It was glowing softly, blue and gold. He placed it in her hand without a word. It felt warm, like a living thing. She looked at him, confused. "What is this?" she asked. The human finally spoke. His voice was calm, deep, human. "It's a choice," he said. "You can keep crawling, or you can walk." She didn't know what to say. No one had ever offered her anything. Not food, not help, not hope. This was new, this was insane, and yet he was serious. He stood up, looked down at her, and said just 2 words. "Say yes." She stared at the cube, then at him, then at the sky that had never changed. She thought about every insult, every bruise, every day spent in the dirt. She thought about the fire inside her, and she made a choice. "Yes," she whispered. And at that moment, the cube glowed brighter. Something clicked deep underground, and the world, for her, began to shift. The girl woke up somewhere new, not in dirt, not in the slums, but inside a smooth metal room that smelled like fire and lightning. Lights blinked softly above her head. Machines hummed around her like they were breathing. Her body felt light, different. She tried to move and froze. She looked down, and what she saw didn't make sense. Her legs, she had legs, not flesh and bone, but steel, black and silver, with glowing lines running down the sides. Her heart thudded in her chest. She tried to lift her right leg, and it moved. Then the left. She sat up slowly, staring, shaking. For the first time in her life, she wasn't crawling. She was rising. Suddenly, a door slid open. The human walked in, still in his dark armor. His helmet retracted, revealing a scarred face, brown eyes, and short black hair. He looked tired but calm. She stared at him, unsure if she should speak. He broke the silence first. "Do they hurt?" he asked. She shook her head slowly. "They feel like they've always been there," she said. He gave a small nod, almost a smile. "Good." Then silence again, until she asked the question that had been burning inside her. "Why did you help me?" The human looked at her, not like the Zaith did, not like the others in Sector 9 did, but like she mattered, like she was real, he said. Because you reminded me of someone. She waited for more, but that was all he gave. Then he turned and picked up a device from the table. Your legs are bonded to your nervous system, he said. They'll get stronger with use, faster, sharper, more responsive. She stood up slowly, shaky but steady. Every step felt like a battle, but a battle she could win. The human handed her a small black chip. This is your ID, he said. You're now part of Project Echo. She frowned. What is Project Echo? He looked her straight in the eyes. A second chance, he said. For people like you. People like me. She didn't understand all of it, but something about the way he said it made her believe. She followed him through the hallway. It was a hidden base carved deep into old war tunnels from decades ago. Rust and tech mixed together like the past and future were stuck in the same room. They passed others, humans, some aliens, most with scars, missing limbs, metal eyes, or strange tattoos. All of them looked like people who had been thrown away and picked up again. She saw one with no arms building a drone using only a mind link, another who floated instead of walking, her lower half replaced with hover tech. She was part of something now, something hidden, maybe dangerous, but alive. And it all started because one human had said yes when no one else even looked her way. Later that night, the girl sat alone in her new room. She touched the smooth surface of her leg and watched the lines pulse softly. She didn't even know the human's name. She just called him the Builder in her head. Because that's what he did. He didn't just fix parts, he rebuilt lives. But something inside her whispered, this wouldn't last. That this gift came with a price, and she was right. Because far above the surface, in the silver towers of the Zaith Command, someone had noticed. Security cameras had picked up the human's return. They saw the footage of him kneeling before the legless girl. They zoomed in, ran scans, ran her face through databases. An alert triggered, red and loud. A voice spoke in the command chamber. Subject 88 located. The Zaith general narrowed his eyes. She was supposed to die years ago, he said. But now, she walks. He tapped a button. Send the hunter droids, he said. Terminate both. The first time she fell, it didn't hurt. There was no pain, only metal against metal. Her legs hit the training room floor with a loud clang, but no one laughed, no one kicked her, no one told her she was useless. Instead, the human simply stood there and waited. He didn't offer his hand. He didn't speak. He just waited. So she got up. She always had. Even when she had no legs, she had learned to pull herself forward. Now she had legs. New, powerful, strange, but still hers. She would learn again. The training room was big and empty. The walls were covered in sensors and screens. Drones floated above, watching her every move. Every step was tracked. Every muscle recorded. She didn't know why it mattered. She only knew she had to keep going. The human watched her silently from the upper platform. He had been quiet since her legs were installed, but his eyes were always focused. He studied her, not like a machine, but like a story unfolding. She walked, she ran, she fell again and again. Sometimes she screamed in frustration. Sometimes she hit the floor with her fists until her hands bled, but every time she got back up, the human finally spoke on the fifth day. You're stronger than they told you. She looked at him, sweat dripping down her face. They told me I was nothing, she said. He nodded. Then prove them wrong. That night, she lay in her bunk staring at the ceiling. Her legs glowed faintly under the blanket. She touched the metal, tracing the patterns like they were scars. But these were not scars. They were weapons. And for the first time, she didn't feel weak. She felt different. She felt possible. In the days that followed, the training got harder. She was pushed to limits she didn't know existed. She ran across collapsing platforms, jumped over electric gaps, dodged stun drones, and still, she rose. The base staff began to notice. Some nodded quietly when she passed. Others watched her from a distance like they were waiting to see what she'd become. One of them, a tall woman with cybernetic eyes, approached her after training. You were Sector 9, right? The girl nodded. The woman smiled. I was Sector 3, dumped there after my implants failed. She pointed to her eyes. They said I was blind, but now I see in 6 directions. She paused. They'll come for you soon, she said quietly. They always come when they see something they're afraid of. That night, the girl asked the human, "What is Project Echo really?" He was sitting alone, fixing a broken drone with tiny tools. Without looking up, he said, "It was meant to save people like you." She sat beside him. "And now?" He stopped working and looked at her. "Now it's a secret they want erased." She understood then. She wasn't just learning to walk, she was walking into war. The Zaith had eyes everywhere. She had heard the rumors. They tracked DNA, they listened through machines, they hunted without warning, and she was now marked, upgraded, awakened, and dangerous. The next morning, she walked into the training room early. Before the others, she stood in front of the mirror looking at herself. Short black hair, deep scars, metal legs glowing beneath her skin-tight training suit. Not a girl from the slums, not a broken body, something new, something becoming. Suddenly, alarms began to ring. Red lights flashed across the hallways. She ran toward the main deck where the human stood, already suiting up in battle armor. "They found us," he said without panic. "How?" she asked. He handed her a pulse weapon and activated her leg boosters. "Because someone told them you weren't supposed to stand." She clenched her jaw, her grip tight on the weapon. "Then let them try to make me fall," she said. Outside, in the dark sky above the desert, the first wave of Huntas. Her droids descended, and the girl who once crawled in the dust now stood tall, not just learning to walk, learning to fight. The night sky above the desert turned red as fire rained from above. Hunter droids dropped like metal fangs from orbit, their wings folded in, and they crashed into the ground with violent impact. Then they stood, tall, armored, and silent. They didn't speak, they just scanned, targeted, and erased. Inside the base, everything changed. Red lights flashed, doors locked, weapons armed. She stood beside the human, holding her first real weapon. Her heart raced, not with fear, but something deeper, clarity. This was the moment, the one she had unknowingly crawled toward her entire life. "Stay close to me," the human said. She didn't answer. She was already moving. The new legs weren't just for walking, they were fast. Too fast. She ran down the hallway, sensors adjusting with each step, balancing weight, boosting speed. Every time her foot hit the floor, it powered the next move. The ground felt like a spring. She could dodge, leap, pivot like a fighter who had trained for years. The first droid breached the base wall. It smashed through steel like paper. Alarms screamed as sparks lit the hallway. She raised her weapon, aimed and fired. The pulse hit the droid's chest, but barely slowed it. The human shouted, "Go for the core!" Below the neck. She adjusted, aimed again, and this time the shot went deep. The droid dropped, twitching. She stared at it, her hands shaking, not with fear but surprise. She had killed a hunter, her breathing calmed. Not bad for someone who couldn't even stand a week ago. The human nodded. "You were built for more," he said quietly. They fought their way to the control room. Others joined them. Project Echo survivors from different sectors, all marked by the Zaith, all upgraded, all outcasts. One had a robotic spine and could twist his body like a snake. Another had laser-linked fingers that could slice through metal. Together, they pushed back. But it wasn't enough. More droids were landing. The base wouldn't hold. She looked at the main screen. Maps, signals, heat zones. "Too many," someone said. The human turned to her. "We have to leave." "Where?" she asked. "To where they can't reach us." They escaped through the lower tunnels carved by old war machines long forgotten. As they ran, she felt something, data flowing into her legs, a voice in her ear. System unlocked. Combat mode. Level 2. Her legs changed shape, boosters extended, armor thickened, speed doubled. She ran faster than the others now. She could hear their footsteps falling behind. She stopped, turned around and lifted 2 droids off the ground with a kick that shattered them into pieces. "What's happening to me?" she asked. The human looked at her like a secret had finally revealed itself. "I didn't just give you legs," he said. "I gave you something the Zaith are afraid of, freedom with power." They reached an old hangar, hidden beneath rock and dust. An ancient dropship waited, one of the last from the old human fleet. As they boarded, the system woke up, sensing her presence. "Pilot confirmed," the AI voice said. She looked at the human in shock. "Why me?" He smiled for the first time. "Because the ones who crawl learn how to rise harder than anyone else." As they flew into the sky, she looked down at the broken base, at the fire, at the ruins, at the place where she had learned to walk. It was gone now, but something had started inside her, something more than survival. She wasn't just a girl with new legs, she was a weapon, a message, a warning, and far above them, deep in the command tower of the Zaith, the general watched the escape with cold fury. Upgrade 88 has gone active, the tech officer said. The general clenched his jaw. Then activate the purge, he ordered. If she was built for more, then we'll show her what more. He really means. The dropship flew low, weaving through canyons of black stone. Behind them, the sky burned with red smoke and metal fire. The old Project Echo base was gone, but the girl wasn't looking back. Not anymore. She stood at the window, her new legs humming softly beneath her. The ship's engine shook the floor, but she stood firm. She had balance now, strength, purpose, but something inside her was shifting again. They landed in a hidden outpost deep underground. Old, cracked, abandoned, yet somehow alive, like it had been waiting for them. Inside, the air was dry and heavy with dust. The walls glowed faintly with leftover energy from machines long forgotten. It felt different from the last base, quieter, darker, colder. She sat alone, cleaning her weapon. Her hands moved fast, like they already knew the steps. It didn't feel strange anymore. She was changing, but it wasn't just her body. It was the way people looked at her now, like she was becoming something else, something they didn't fully trust. Even the Echo survivors kept their distance, she heard them whisper. She took down a hunter droid alone. Her legs evolved mid-fight. She's not like the rest of us. She tried to ignore it, but one night she caught them staring. They weren't admiring, they were afraid. Even the human, her builder, was quieter than before. He spoke less, watched more. Always checking her vitals, running scans, asking questions he didn't explain. She finally asked, "Do you think I'm dangerous now?" He looked at her for a long moment before replying, "I think you're different." She frowned. "That's not an answer." He nodded. "No, it's not." Later that night, a message crackled through the comms, encrypted, broken, but clear enough. Zaith High Command offers full pardon for Echo members who deliver Subject 88 alive. Silence fell in the room. Everyone heard it. Everyone froze. She looked around at the people she had trained with, fought beside. Some looked away, some didn't. One stepped forward, slow and steady. "You're the reason they're chasing us," he said. "You're the one they want." She stayed calm. "I didn't ask for this," she said, "but I won't hide either." The human stepped between them. "She's not the threat," he said. "She's the reason we're still alive." But doubt had already grown like poison. That night, someone tried to override the security door to her room. She heard the soft beep, the quiet hiss of metal shifting. She didn't sleep. She waited with her back to the wall, weapon ready, but no one entered. Not yet. The next day, she trained alone, harder than before. Her legs pushed further, adapting again, jumping higher, striking harder, dodging faster. She could feel the system learning with her, like it wasn't just tech, it was alive. It wanted to protect her, maybe even evolve her. Suddenly she collapsed. A sharp pain hit her spine. She fell to one knee, gasping. Lights flashed inside her vision. Override detected. External command. Attempted control. She screamed. Not in pain, but in fury. Someone was trying to take over. From inside the base, she ripped the connector out of her neck and staggered to her feet. The human was already rushing toward her. "It's the Zaith," he said. "No," she replied. "It's someone here." They ran a scan. The system didn't lie. The signal came from one of the Echo survivors, one she had trusted. He had sold her location to the Zaith in exchange for safe passage. Her own people, the outcasts like her, they had turned that night as the traitor was taken away in chains. She stood in front of the others, eyes blazing, voice steady. "You want to blame someone? Blame the Zaith," she said. "They made us outcasts. They made us weapons. They made me. But I won't be their slave." She raised her hand too, metal fingers glowing. "I won't be yours either." And for the first time, they didn't see a broken girl or a threat. They saw a leader. But in the shadows beyond the outpost, the hunter droids were closing in. And this time, they weren't just coming to kill. They were coming to collect. They came at night. No warning, no sound, just the cold hum of energy blades and the sharp buzz of scanners slicing through the dark. The hunter droids moved like shadows, fast, silent, focused. They didn't knock. They never did. But this time, she was waiting. The girl once known for crawling now stood in the center of the outpost's hangar. Her new legs pulsed with light, ready. Her arms were wrapped in armor thin as skin but strong as steel. She wasn't hiding. She wasn't running. She had run long enough. "They're coming for you," the human said, standing beside her. She didn't blink. "Then let them," she said. The rest of the Echo survivors were scattered across the outpost, unsure, afraid. Some were ready to fight, some were ready to flee, but none of them knew what she was becoming, not even her. The floor vibrated, metal boots landing on the surface above. The power cut out, replaced by emergency lights bathing the hall in red. Then came the sound of doors being sliced open. The Scythe weren't playing games. This was a sweep, a capture or kill, but mostly kill. She moved first, fast, too fast. Her legs activated boost mode before she gave the command. It was like the system could feel her rage, like it wanted to unleash. The first droid appeared at the end of the hall, its scanner glowing blue. She didn't wait. She ran straight at it, slid under its shot, then jumped, higher than she ever had before. Her foot came down on its core and crushed it into the floor. Others followed. She was already moving, already reacting. Every move was sharper, smarter. Her body was no longer learning. It knew. This was not just defense. This was domination. From the control room, the human watched her on every screen. His face showed something between pride and fear. "She's past the limit," one of the techs said. "She's rewriting her own programming." The human said nothing. He just whispered, "Good." Down below, the girl fought like a storm, turning, dodging, striking. Her body danced between beams and blades. She wasn't just a target. She was the weapon they should have never created. She fought to protect the outpost, but more than that, she fought because she could, because they said she never would, because the ones who said she was nothing were wrong. One by one, the hunter droids fell. Some exploded, some collapsed. None escaped. But just when silence returned, the ground cracked. Something heavy dropped into the lower bay. It wasn't a droid. It was worse. A Scythe soldier, tall, armored, alive. They're elite, never sent unless the target mattered. "You are not allowed," the Scythe said, its voice cold and static. "You were born useless, and you will die unfinished." She stared at him, unshaken. "I was born crawling," she said, "but I built myself standing." They fought, and it was unlike anything before. The Scythe moved like a ghost. She moved like fire. He struck with power. She countered with speed. Each hit shook the walls. Sparks flew, steel bent. The air itself seemed to tear. But then, something new happened. Her legs shifted again, a hidden upgrade unlocked, not in code, but in response to need. Blades extended from her calves, her spine reinforced with glowing segments. She wasn't just fighting, she was adapting. She landed the final strike not with rage but with precision, a clean slice through the Scythe's armor core. He collapsed, not understanding how something once discarded had become something that couldn't be stopped. Silence returned to the outpost. Smoke rising, floors cracked, the air filled with static. She stood in the center, breathing hard, eyes glowing. Ding! The survivors came out slowly. They had seen everything. Some bowed their heads. Some stepped back. One of them whispered, "She's not one of us anymore." The human stepped forward, his voice steady. "No," he said. "She's what we should have been." But she didn't care about their fear anymore. She looked at the stars through the cracked roof above and asked only one question. How many more of us are out there? Because now she knew. She wasn't alone, and she wasn't finished. The outpost was silent, not from fear this time, but from awe. Everyone had seen it. The fight, the fire, the transformation. She had faced a Scythe elite and survived. No, not just survived. Won. The girl with no legs was no longer a whisper in the shadows. She was a name, a symbol, a threat, and the Scythe knew it. Across the galaxy, her face appeared on wanted screens. Subject 88. Terminate on sight. The price on her head was higher than any rebel commander because she wasn't just resisting, she was proof. Proof that someone broken could become something powerful. Proof that a system built on perfection could be cracked. In the days that followed, she made a choice. She didn't run, she didn't hide, she moved. With the human at her side and a handful of loyal Echo survivors, she began building again, not a base, not a bunker, but a signal. She hacked into old satellites, reactivated long-dead comms, and then she spoke, not to the Zaith, to the forgotten, to the broken, to the ones who had been called useless, thrown out, left behind. Her message was simple. I was born crawling, she said. They told me I would die in the dirt. But I stood, I ran, I fought, and I'm still here. If you can hear this, and you've been cast out, if they told you your life had no value, I'm telling you now, they were wrong. The signal spread fast, faster than the Zaith could block it, and across a dozen broken moons and dead cities people responded. They weren't soldiers, they were survivors, some with old tech, some with nothing but scars, but they she didn't start an army, she sparked a movement. They called themselves the Crawlers, not as shame, but as pride. A reminder that before you rise, you have to fight through the dirt. That weakness is just the start of power. The Zaith panicked. They sent more hunters, more droids, more threats, but it wasn't enough, because for every one they silenced, 5 more rose. The girl, now a legend among the Crawlers, became their spearhead. She led raids, took out Zaith supply ships, hacked war factories, freed prisoners, and every time she was seen they said the same thing. She walks now, but she didn't just walk. She flew. She tore through machines like they were paper. She shut down systems older than the war. She broke rules written in blood and fear, and yet in quiet moments she still sat with the human, the builder, the only one who had seen her when no one else had. Why me? She asked him one night. He smiled, tired but proud. Because I saw what you could be when you still thought you were nothing. And now you're the reason others believe. In the final battle, when the Zaith launched their last command ship to crush the rebellion, she went alone, not out of pride, but because she knew she could. She boarded the ship mid-flight. She walked through fire, through electric traps, through steel walls, and when she reached the Zaith general, he said, "You were meant to die forgotten." She answered, "Then remember this." And the lights went out. She didn't destroy the ship. She took it, and she flew it back, broken, smoking, but hers. When she landed, people ran to see her, not out of fear, out of hope. No one called her useless now. No one dared. She stood tall, scarred, tired, but unshaken, and in that moment, everyone knew. She wasn't just a girl who had survived. She was the start of something new, not human, not machine, something in between, and all her enemies had one thing left to say: she's not useless, she's unstoppable.